Hello, everyone. My name is Mariana, and I'm the founder and owner of Mariana Carroll Consulting, or MCC, as we like to refer to it. And we are looking into emerging technologies and also just connecting people together online through technology. We are very excited to be sharing with you today about our wellness transformation offering. And Nicole will talk to that in a moment. But as you would know, our featured topic of discussion for today's session will focus on burnout and fatigue in a digital world, which I think we all can relate to. We have an exciting agenda lined up for you for the next hour. I'll introduce our core team in a second, after which, as I alluded in the beginning, Nicole will introduce to you how we would like taking hands with you and your organization on this transformational journey of ensuring our well-being. This will be followed by a discussion panel with Alison and Jen focusing on digital burnout and fatigue, as you've already heard. We truly believe that it's time right now to take back control, implementing healthy habits that would sustain us for the long run. But then the question starts popping up, I know, in our busy minds, but where do we even begin and how do we do that? And hopefully we can bring some answers to some of those questions today. And that is what we'll also unpack today, a holistic view from a body, mind, soul, our emotions, our relationships, our finances, and occupational wellness and what that means. We'll also have some fun with a word cloud that we'll participate in. There's poll questions, and we'll even have some physical exercises. So please check your chat box and also put any questions or comments in the chat or the Q&A. We will also allow some time at the end where we can answer some of your questions. We really want the session to be as interactive as possible, so please participate. And even now, let's quickly get acquainted. So would you not put in the chat box, just say hello to everyone, who you are and where you're from. And I'm sure you wouldn't have signed up to this call today if you are not already either experiencing visual fatigue, or perhaps you are one of the lucky ones, but I'm sure we are all very familiar with online Connect sessions. So I'm sure you'll find your way around finding the audio if you can't hear clearly, or the view settings if you want to see something different. But if you do have any troubles, please pop that into the chat also, and we would gladly assist you. So now I think let's all breathe in. Let's sit back and let's relax for the next hour as we together engage, learn, and grow in this area of wellness, especially when it comes to the always on, always available digital world that we live in. It's now for me a great honor to introduce our team to all of you. And I'm going to first start with Nicole Ramji. Nicole, would you like to say hello to everyone?
Everyone, I'm Nicole Ramji, the founder of HR Synthesis, an HR consulting business. We are transformation specialists and change agents, and we basically coach people and businesses to thrive in this fourth industrial revolution. Good to be with you today.
Amazing. Thank you, Nicole. And next, I would like to ask Alison, would you like to introduce yourself to us?
Hi, everybody. Fantastic to be here today. And I am an occupational therapist, founded Work Mind Matters because I had a real passion to start authentic conversations about mental health and well-being in the workplace. Looking forward to today. Thanks, Mariana.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Jenny, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny de Kooiker, Principal Consultant for HR Synthesis, really focusing on people and change. And this topic today is so close to my heart. I'm also super excited for the team to be launching our wellness transformation offering today. So it's a super awesome, exciting time for all of us, and just welcoming everybody that has joined us today. We look forward to this vital and needed conversation. Thank you, Mariana.
Amazing, Jen. Thank you so much. And thank you. As you can see, you all are in very good hands this afternoon. So Nicole, I'm going to hand over to you to start us off.
Thank you so much, Mariana. So we are both thrilled and excited to be sharing this special moment with you all today as we launch our wellness transformation offering. As a team, we have come together to co-create and collaborate on providing differentiated, innovative solutions and services that support and address the strategic and business imperative of employee well-being. So why is this important? In today's talent-driven market, the focus is on well-being, and it's not just a must-have. I'm sorry, it's not just a nice to have, it's a must-have, okay? This is business critical issues that we're talking about. We want to offer organizations an integrated, holistic, and sustainable wellness solution, one that supports the whole person, so that it allows employees to bring their full selves, their best self to work every day. So our vision is making a real difference by embedding humanity in the future of work to inspire a people-first culture. We enable this vision by offering customer-centric solutions and services to your organization, co-creating health journeys for employees ranging from podcasts, leadership training and coaching, wellness events and webinars, consulting services, research development, best practice, data analytics and toolkits, and really practical tools and tips, basically mapping across the 7 dimensions of wellness. As Mariana mentioned earlier, they are physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, social, financial, and occupational wellness. So let's jump straight into it. I'd like to do a quick check-in to see where you are at. So on the screen, you are going to see the 7 dimensions of wellness. As well as in your chat box, a poll would have popped up around wellness, and it says, looking at this visual, which of these on your individual wellness wheel has been most impacted due to digital burnout and fatigue? Now I'm asking you to select the top 3 that resonate with you the most, and I'll unpack what this means. So looking at physical wellness, we're talking to a healthy quality of life. Here we are looking at how well we sleep, eating well, exercise, relaxation. With regards to emotional wellness, we're referring to how we understand, accept, and express our emotions. We're talking about the matters of the heart. In terms of mental wellness, we're looking at the cognitive ability that focuses on performance without burnout and fatigue. With regards to social wellness, we're looking at positive connections and relationships with family and friends, our ability to not only care for ourselves, but for others as well. Spiritual wellness, we refer here to faith, beliefs, values, morals, our ability to care and work and offer and volunteer our services, as well as to show optimism, forgiveness, and compassion to others. Financial wellness, we're talking about financial stability, our balance between spending and saving, and more importantly, our behaviors and thinking around personal finances. And lastly, occupational wellness, it's basically enriching our life through the work that we do. So it's the pride that we take in the jobs that we do, the sense of achievement that we feel when we accomplish the job. So let's have a look and see how you have rated yourself against the 7 dimensions. Look at that, we have 88% of our audience that indicate mental wellness has been impacted by digital burnout and fatigue, followed by emotional wellness, and then physical wellness. I'd just like to put it out to Jenny. Any surprises here when you look at these results?
No, I'm actually busy chatting away here in the inbox, Nicole, as you mentioned my name, and I'm absolutely no surprises. If I look at those top 3, you've got mental wellness sitting at 88%, physical and emotional very close between a 63, 67. So for me, and knowing kind of my own personal journey, and certainly from the research that we're going to be sharing today, no surprises in terms of what has come out tops. Thanks, Nicole.
And I'd like the audience to sit tight, because today's discussion is really going to help you with some of the tips in terms of addressing these wellness dimensions. So thanks for that, Jenny. I'm going to now talk to you, Ali. our resident occupational therapist. So you must have seen lots of this in the past 18 months, where as we've been switched on all the time, always connected, we're almost in this permanent state of multitasking. And this is not optimal. It's definitely not sustainable. So help us understand, what is digital burnout and fatigue, and how do we identify that? And further to that, what are the dangers of being always on?
Great. Yeah, I think, you know, we've really, I think in the world of work, we've really hit such an imbalance in the way we're working through the pandemic. We've almost moved into this extreme of an online lifestyle, and we have forgotten in the midst of that our physical limitations. And because of the fact, and our human limitations, because of the fact that, you know, we are human beings, and because of that constant online factor, we start to just ignore everything that is happening in our bodies and our minds and our thoughts, because it's just, there's no time to actually even think about it. And, you know, I think there are three areas which have really come out as major areas that have been impacted by this online lifestyle. And the first is that physiological aspect, the physical aspect. The second is our social and emotional aspect of how that's affected us because of being constantly online, how we've been impacted in that way. And finally, it's just cognitively and mentally the impact that it's had. If we think about physiologically, I want to just speak now to something which I think is so important, is the ultradian cycles. Now, you may not have heard of that before, but this is, here the graph is, but it just shows us these ultradian cycles are cycles, they troughs and they peaks of our energy output. So it's our energy production, and then our ability to reach a peak performance, and then we start to hit a bit of a trough. Now, this is ongoing 24 hours a day, even when we're sleeping, except obviously not to a great extent when we're sleeping. But during the day, we actually have these ultradian cycles where we have peaks of energy, and then we hit the trough. And that peak of energy runs at about a 90-minute to 2 hour, it's a 90-minute to 2 hour cycle. And you're probably aware of that. You know, you start a task, it's 90 minutes to 2 hours, you sit, you're really working hard, and then suddenly, or you're in a meeting, and suddenly you feel like the irritability levels, you know, peaking, or you start to feel sort of tired or a bit hungry, or you need the bathroom. But these are physiological signs that are telling us that actually that peak is hitting a little bit of a trough, and actually you need a break at this point. If you don't take a break at this point, the peak going forward gets lower and lower and lower. The performance gets lower and lower and lower. And with this ongoing constant back-to-back Zoom meetings, with not having the breaks in between, we've started to really start to see what happens physically if we don't have the breaks. And what we're seeing a lot of is people battling with headaches, migraines. People are starting to get a lot of eye issues, even vision is deteriorating with people needing to wear glasses, and eye pain, dryness, sensitivity to light. Our posture is a big issue because we're sitting, and the stress in our neck and our shoulders then, you know, aggravates the headaches and the migraines. Lower back pain. The problem is when we don't take those breaks according to what our physiological needs are, and we do it over a long period of time, it increases the stress hormones, and then you start to really head into the high blood pressures, the diabetes, depressions and anxiety, insomnia. So these are all things maybe you can relate right now as I'm speaking about it, but from a physical perspective, that is something that is really has been affected by this constant ongoing on lifestyle. The second is social and emotional, you know, not having that social interaction in the passage, you know, at work, meeting at the coffee station, having a chat on the way to the bathroom, stopping at a desk, having a chat. We are sensory beings. We need sensory input. And, you know, all our senses help us establish and understand our environment. So when you don't have the touch and the handshake or the hug those things, it really starts to impact again on chemicals in our brain. You know, the dopamine and the serotonin are released when we have those human interactions, because we're human and we're supposed to have those interactions. So when those have been cut out and taken away and removed, it really starts to impact us emotionally. And I think very much for young singles working alone at home, where they don't have even a family or kids or any kind of physical interaction with people, it's taken its toll socially and emotionally. And then finally, cognitively, gosh, mentally, the multitasking, you know, cameras go off and we sit and we multitask, and it does nothing for us. In fact, there's a trait they call the attention deficit trait that a psychiatrist has picked up on, where he says that basically we are heading into an epidemic in the workplace where people cannot focus on one task at a time because we're so busy multitasking. So that camera off on the online thing, I don't think is always great. But yeah, I think, you know, cognitively, mentally, that multitasking, the autopilot, not thinking for ourselves, not giving space, having recovery time for creative thinking, things like that are things that have had massive impact on our mental ability to perform and be productive and be present and not have presenteeism instead.
Thank you for that, Alison. I mean, that was very, very insightful. And I think even though we all experience it, you know, on a day-to-day basis in some shape or form, whether it's a headache, whether it's, you know, stiff and achy muscles and lower back pain, as you mentioned, you know, eye strain, but we actually not breaking that cycle and finding ways to break that cycle. It's become so difficult that we're just in the slump of, you know, waking up each day and going into back-to-back meetings, that we are not stopping, we are not pausing, we're not reflecting on how to change those habits and break that cycle to allow for more time to reflect, to allow for an opportunity to perhaps connect with our senses, because we so overstimulated from a technology and digital perspective.
Yeah, and also, I think that ongoing, when it's ongoing all the time and we don't allow ourselves the periods of recovery, the accumulation is when you start to hit the burnout and you start to hit proper burnout. And that's when it becomes problematic. So rather nail it early.
And, you know, what I'm finding is that even though people know they have, you know, their annual leave available to them, it doesn't seem like you're taking leave, because your work world and your home world, it has merged into one, you know, with the pandemic and with working from home. So as a result, you've got to actually know and learn other techniques to switch off, even whether it's in the evenings, on the weekends, or when you take leave. So it doesn't feel like, you know, you just got an extra hour of sleep and the day just looks very much the same. So I think that's quite important, and I look forward to learning and hearing more tips about how we can, you know, help ourselves in this way. So now I'd like to just take a pause and jump into a word cloud. You will see in the chat box a menti.com link. Please click on the link and it'll take you to the Mentimeter website. And the question that will pop up, you'll need to use the code that's on the screen, 29250986. So please click on the link that's in the chat box. You'll go to the menti.com website, use the code on your screen. And the question we are asking is, how has digital overload impacted your well-being, your performance, and your creativity? So Alison, I must tell you, I've came across a podcast by Jim Quick, and he speaks about how about the 4 digital supervillains that steal our powers. I'm not sure if you've come across that podcast. Yes, right? And he talks about how technology is amplifying the challenges we are facing, and he's talking about, you know, information overload, anxiety. I know I certainly get anxiety just looking at my inbox every day, and that we feel, you know, we have no time. There's, we're under pressure, our stress levels go up, it impacts our sleep. He talks about how it distracts us. We don't have the focus anymore because, we're on our laptops and then we're looking at our phones and people are working with us by email, on the phone. It just never stops. They also talk about that over-reliance of the dependency on technology, to the point that we don't remember people's birthdays, we don't remember phone numbers, and we've become so addicted to the screen and to technology. And it's impacting our ability to actually reason and think critically. Is this something that you've also come across?
Absolutely. I think, when they're coming a little bit back to that, the ultradian cycle, if there aren't those periods of recovery for our brain to actually download and process the information that we have been dealing with in maybe one meeting before going into the next meeting, if there's no time to download and process that, how do we expect to retain it and keep it, store it properly? And the problem is then when you've had a full day of that, often there's so much overstimulation. The blue light on a screen is not natural light. So that also has an impact. And there's so much overstimulation of the brain and this being online, not having the time to process and the time to download the info, that then we don't sleep well. Believe it or not, there's been the coronasomnia, as they call it, coronasomnia. And sleeping is the time where we really do, the neural pathways are entrenched and the brain detoxes. So if you're not getting that sleep, then when you wake up the next morning and try to get going again, no wonder people are battling with, having the brain fog and all those things. So absolutely.
So interesting to have a look on the screen, Alison. Our audience definitely agrees with you in terms of what you have just mentioned, in terms of eye strain and eyesight problems, impact on creativity, overload, feeling more anxious, unsure, distracted, people feeling emotional because they're overwhelmed. It's this treadmill that we just can't seem to get off. Performance being impacted, people being forgetful. So it's quite interesting that exactly what you were talking to right now, this is how people are experiencing digital burnout and fatigue, and it is very real and it is happening.
And I think what's interesting is it actually impacts on all those dimensions, doesn't it? Of the symptom. That's what those are showing.
So, like our audience, Gallup has also put forward in some research that they have done that 75% of their respondents have indicated experiencing digital fatigue, especially now during the pandemic. Can you share with us some tailored practical tips to help us manage our digital burnout and rebalance our relationship with technology?
For sure. I think, I could spend about an hour or 2 hours on this, but let's break it down into, I think it's important to look at this from a personal perspective and also look at professionally, but personally, one thing is, and I come back to this a lot, I know, is routine. If you're struggling and you're in a place when you're fatigued, you're really, really battling, getting back into a solid daily routine is so important to setting the tone for your day. And what it does is it's about being fed. And I say fed as food, exercise, and get dressed. Because once you've done those things, you've fed your brain with a good amount of food, you've got the endorphins up from the bit of exercise, and you've got dressed so that you are ready to go in as if you're going into the workplace, even if you're working from home, but you sit down in the right mindset. And I think we've all got a bit lazy at times, it's easy just to kind of quickly put on a nice top and sit in front of the computer or pop on the couch and just work there, no one can see you, or even work in bed, I dare say. For some people at the beginning, it was quite a luxury. So I think that's something that if you're heading back into the workplace soon, get yourself into that practice again. Get yourself into routine now, because you're going to feel tired at the end of the day after getting back into the workplace. And if you aren't heading back into the workplace, try and make this a priority, because you will be amazed how it impacts your mindset. I think secondly, from a personal perspective, is social media. They have really leveraged the dopamine feedback loop, and that is an addiction loop. You know, it can be a good one, a reward system in our brain, but the social media platforms have leveraged that. And it's the same as an alcoholism. It's the same as drug addiction. The social media platforms really love to get you on that algorithm. They love to get you back on there. And so that's really something. If you need to monitor the source of the information, the source, what are you looking at? The load, how much time are you spending on it? And number two, the value, how much value is it adding to your life, to your relationships, to your work performance? Because that can be a massive distraction when you have your phone on the desk and things pop up, notifications pop up. So some things to think about there. Then professionally, I would say there are the three things here. And the one is about these natural breaks, ensuring that there are micro breaks and macro breaks. And, you know, we've got to think again, remember the ultradian cycle, those 90 minutes, that's what your body can handle. You push it beyond that, you're starting to get the stress levels up without even really realizing it. So make a point of saying 90 minutes to 2 hours, you work hard, but then you make sure you take a break. Now, micro breaks in those 90 minutes to 2 hours, you can do the simplest things of just sitting back in your chair, closing your eyes for 30 seconds. You can look out the window for 1 minute and allow your mind to wander. Have a beautiful picture on your wall and just take a moment to look at it. Maybe it's a great memory that you've got, but stir up some emotions, stir up some creativity, get your mind thinking, and give your eyes a break from the screen, but also allow your brain just to wander, because that's when that aha moment will happen. That's when your creativity happens. And so that, I think, is just some simple things to do. Breathing, watching muscle tension in your body. You know, close your eyes and just say, where am I feeling tense? Okay, let me relax. Because those micro steps can have an enormous impact if you are consistent with them. The macro steps is when you take a proper break, like a 20-minute, a lunch break or 30-minute break, get out of your office, get away from the desk, leave your phone behind, go into the garden, you know, wash, I don't know, pat the dog, clean the pool, but just have a complete break from work, a complete break, and be intentional about that. Not easy, but you have to do it. I think then, and so I think that's from a professional perspective. Boundaries. I love this quote, and I just have to get it here. You're not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. People will expect of you what you allow. And so when it comes to boundaries, you have to make a decision to say, this is what I can do. I'm getting up at this time. I'm not available in this hour. At this time of the evening, I will not respond to emails. And if you are leaders, you should really be setting the tone here, because otherwise everyone else thinks they must do how you're doing it. So it's about setting the boundary for yourself, so that others can also follow if you're a leader. But it's boundaries at the beginning of the day, boundaries, and even setting aside time that is deep thought. I call them golden hours, but it's at 2 hour time, no notifications on. Put your phone in your desk drawer if you know it's going to distract you. If you're at home, let your family know. Your wife, stay away, or a partner, don't come in with coffee, I'm focusing. You know, it's simple little things. And with kids at home, when they were at home, that was another whole thing to deal with. But it's about really being intentional with boundaries. And then finally, the multitasking. Now, the challenge is, if you're battling with this, start to keep your camera on and make sure that when you're in a meeting, you're engaged in that meeting, you're listening, you're absorbing, you're writing notes with pen and paper, because that's also very therapeutic. And when you do that, you are forcing yourself not to multitask and fragment your attention span, because long term, that is you're going to head down the ADT route. You don't want to go there. So it's about maintaining and keeping your concentration. And I think look, I could go on and on, but if that's, hopefully those are a few little tips that can just, simple things you can apply every day. And those accumulated can have a huge, huge impact on you. But it is about being intentional.
You're so right, Ali. I think that, you're helping me recognize, where I'm also going wrong. I think sometimes you just want to finish this one last email and quickly get this off to this client. And you start multitasking, and, the brain is not wired to multitask. That's the big myth that there's out there, that we are able to multitask. We're not meant for it, and it's not sustainable. And you try to do that, and I'm realizing, even for myself, the errors in my, the typos in my email, the errors in trying to quickly fix a document and send it out whilst you perhaps online or trying to do something else. And it's going to come back to bite you, and you think you're trying to be super efficient and super productive and optimize your time, but actually you end up making more mistakes trying to do that.
Yeah, well, you're splitting your attention span. So you're not actually winning on either front. You're kind of just giving a little bit of yourself in each thing instead of giving your all to one.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to take a little time out, and we're going to do some movement, stretching and breathing. So please join me, even if it feels a little silly. We're going to start with sitting upright in your chair where you are. Sit upright with your feet firmly planted on the ground, shoulders back. And now I'd like you can open your eyes or keep them closed, whatever works for you. Take a deep breath. And out, and in again. And out. One last time. And out. Now I'd like you to stretch your hands in front of you. I'll turn this way. And really get your hands moving forward, so you're giving your shoulders a good stretch. And breathe while you are stretching. Okay, now place your hands cupped behind your back and stretch your shoulders out. You'll be surprised how often we sit slouched that even to stretch your shoulders this way feels like a strain.
Just for interest sake, this actually helps with lactic acid. Removes it. Itches.
All right. So thank you for that. Thanks for participating. Now we're going to go over to Jenny. And Jenny, we're going to discuss this concept of digital burnout. What are the high-level themes and findings that have emerged in 2021, given that, this all hit us as a sudden wave in 2020? What are the trends that we're seeing now based on the research that you found?
Right. Thank you so much, Nicole. And again, thank you for this opportunity to be part of this vital, needed discussion. As mentioned, this topic is so close to my own heart due to my wellness journey facing burnout and fatigue and the impact that it had. So let's dive in quickly. There's so much of information to share in a short space of time. So let's have a look at the reality, taking into consideration where we are at globally. Around the world, employers are united by a common challenge, a dramatic decrease in employee well-being. Wellness programs on its own are not enough. Mental health is another growing medical concern. And if companies want to develop and sustain a community of healthy employees, they're going to have to do more. That's the reality. They must create a culture of health and well-being. So what does the research tell us? The 2020 21 Global Wellbeing Survey was developed, designed, and conducted by Aon in partnership with a leading global market research company. The purpose was to understand how employers around the world are addressing well-being, specifically focusing on burnout and fatigue. And interesting enough, Nicole, 4 key themes emerged. So well-being performance impacts company performance, full stop. Company performance is at risk due to stress, burnout, anxiety, fatigue. Well-being is more than just programs. It is a people and performance strategy. And the future of work is flexible working styles with a key focus on building organizational resilience. So with all these key themes that have emerged, what do we learn from this? What can we take away from this? Nicole, well-being is a people and performance approach and requires balancing the appropriate resources and opportunities. We need that commitment, especially from our leaders, to achieve optimal health, resilience, and performance for the individual, the organization, and the communities at large. In today's environment, the research shows us that well-being has become much more than a program, an app, a tool, and nice to have in terms of resources to truly change or shift employee behavior. Well-being as a people and performance strategy, right, is on its way to becoming the ethos of organizations around the globe. 82% of organizations globally believe well-being is important. It is a business essential. It is a strategic business imperative. The challenge, however, although 82% of these companies globally consider employee well-being a priority, many organizations are lacking a well-being strategy in their culture. They're lacking it in the employee value proposition, and they're lacking that in their performance objectives. Just from a statistical point of view, of the 87% who have well-being initiatives in place, only 55% have a strategy. So quickly, what does an always-on culture look like? 70% of these respondents admitted to checking their phones first thing in the morning, and I'm sure we can all relate. Work-related messages, nearly 2/3 do the same thing right before going to bed. So what's the impact going to be if we continue with this? 60% of the respondents said there's a pressure to answer calls and emails outside of work, makes them more stressed. 56% say that reliance on an overuse of communication platforms and work-related emails is increasing their stress levels. And if it's not used responsibly and managed very carefully, having access to more tech can mean more stress. So data is showing us that employees are struggling to achieve a work-life balance, particularly when working remotely or from home. So Nicole, from these key findings, overall, employees are simultaneously very optimistic but cautious about digital technology and the effect it can have on their health and well-being. And they need the support from their employers in a workplace context. So it is clear from this research that we have done, the overuse of technology in the workplace and a lack of workday discipline or boundaries, as Alison's already mentioned, it's damaging well-being as well as productivity and performance. And these demands are hurting organizations' efforts to become more agile and innovative. And they can lead to individual career derailment, burnout, and declines in well-being. So that is what has emerged in the findings, Nicole. Thank you.
Jen, it's very interesting, the insights that you shared. I mean, I was chatting to you the other day, the workshop that we facilitated on creativity, and it was linked to that organization's goal and value of innovation. And so we were teaching people how to build creative confidence. And the takeaway out of these sessions was more around well-being and having a humanizing experience than the actual aspects of creativity that we're trying to teach, the elements of building relationships with people, talking, active listening. People wanted more connect time with their colleagues. They wanted to be able to lean on each other, share experiences. They wanted people to find out, ask me, how am I doing? You know, as opposed to, I trust you, you're good at what you're doing, here's your workload, right? And that's what's so interesting, is that people are craving more and more this human experience. They want to be understood for who they are and all that they bring and all the challenges that they face. And these are super productive people, but they're just feeling like they're not heard, they're not understood, and they're just on autopilot trying to produce better and better and better results each time. And it's you know, as you said, it's about setting and creating that culture, you know, of well-being, so that people know how to take these tools and tips and put it into practice.
100%, Nicole.
Okay, so Jen, the next question, you know, I was thinking about, if we look at finding regular or creating small steps and taking regular steps and, you know, habits around committing ourselves, both not so much as individuals now, but looking at it from a leadership perspective, right? How does the organization, you know, be intentional about these initiatives, be intentional about the programs they put in place, the culture that they create? So can you share with us, you know, what other organizations are doing to better support their employees with burnout and fatigue in this always on culture?
Yes, absolutely, Nicole. I think the key challenge within a work context is that we cannot always choose to switch off completely. Wouldn't we love to do that, right? But we can't. So what, you know, can organizations consider doing then to support their employees to build that manageable working discipline, optimized to help continue to get the best out of technology for the benefit of employees' professional and personal lives, while also protecting their well-being? So again, if we go back to the research findings and the recommendations, organizations can consider implementing what we call this tech turn-off best practice, and ideally working towards building a positive, healthy digital culture that ensures employees avoid the stresses of always on technology use, and so forth, and really supporting employee well-being in a digital world. So let's look at what can be considered. If we start at foundational level by putting in place the appropriate governance structures into your programs, your initiatives, to ultimately support your wellness strategy. Many organizations have workplace policies, right, Nicole? We know this. And if the organization provides employees with devices such as laptops, mobile cell phones, whatever, you should set guidelines for acceptable and accepted use to reassure your employees that they, like their devices, don't need to always be on all the time. They also need to be recharged, just like we do. You may also consider including the following elements in your policy framework or within your programs and initiative. And we talk about this a lot, Nicole: empowering employees through continuous learning by providing them with information and ongoing coaching support to build that digital diet, which enables them to commit to learning new, healthy digital habits. We heard some of those things through your conversation with Alison. Considering other support initiatives like implementing a buddy system, helping decrease after-hour screen time, enabling that culture of well-being where your employees aren't expected to send and receive emails 24/7, being aware and mindful of those Zoom and on-camera overload, right? We've heard about that. MailChimp, TechStarter, Podium, other companies, they try to limit on-camera calls or meetings in general. They give employees a break 1 day a week. Some organizations have introduced things like meeting-free Thursdays, for example, giving employees collective time off Although encouraging your employees, we heard about this, taking leave is important, employees struggle to switch off, right? They take their laptops off, with them when they're going on leave, and they find that they're sitting, with the family at the beach, busy, on the laptop. So companies, including Bumble, LinkedIn, Momentum, have given all of the employees a week off, hoping to provide them with a chance to reset and recharge without worrying about what's happening in the office while they're on leave. Nike is another one, closed its corporate offices to give employees a paid week-long mental health break ahead of its return to office plans. MailChimp, for example, implemented Summer Fridays, where the business day concludes at 1 p.m. to minimize fatigue. No meetings will be held, during that time. Employees are free to leave their work behind, start the weekend, catch up on personal projects, or even complete learning development work, which often just gets left by the wayside. Deloitte, for example, have employed a chief wellbeing officer who's responsible for driving their wellness strategy and innovation around work-life wellness to empower employees to be well so they can perform at their best at a professional and personal level. Some countries like France, for example, have given employees permission to avoid answering work emails out of hours. How's that for you? So, it's got everything to do with how companies value the work-life balance of their employees. So just in closing out, I want to leave you and our audience with these key takeaways to consider, Nicole. Well-being isn't just good for employees, it's good for business. However, it doesn't matter how many well-being initiatives you're going to offer if your culture is not supportive. This begins with leadership, right? We've heard this. Leaders set the tone for company culture and well-being. Leaders, we need you to lead by example, model the balanced company culture you're promoting, build the culture together with your employees, give them a voice within a safe space and a chance to help shape the company's culture of well-being. Run your wellness pulse surveys, hold focus group sessions, designate a wellness committee to ensure feedback is gathered and collated, design, co-create wellness philosophy, initiatives, programs, right? But take your employees on the journey. They need to be part of that journey. The benefits for you as an organization, as an individual, as a team, as a leader will be significant. So by helping to create these conditions for a healthy digital culture in your workplace, the ripple effects will carry over into your employees' lives, being more creative, productive, reconnecting with self, and enjoying more quality time and for more balanced, a better balanced life. Thank you, Nicole. Over to you.
I can't agree with you more, Jen. And I think that, setting the tone in terms of the culture is very important. But, it's just leading from the heart, okay? And this is common sense, right? You don't even need to write a policy to be able to empower somebody to switch off or take a break. And I think this is where leaders need to step in. I find that super productive people are always wanting to please and do more. And sometimes they need to be told it's okay. It's okay to take that break. It's okay to take a week off. So it's encouraging, that kind of behavior. And I think, once they get that support from the leaders, they'll know better how to start putting these tips, and tools into place. So thank you very much for that, Jen. I'm going to hand over to Mariana now. I see there has been some questions come through, and so she's going to facilitate our Q&A session.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I think both Nicole, Jen and Ali, what a powerful conversation. I think I didn't have enough time to jot down all the notes that I needed to take, so I'll definitely go back and listen to the recording again. But thank you for sharing from your own expertise and your own experiences and making it very real to all of us. I believe this is truly just the beginning of our wellness transformation journey, and I'm truly excited and very expectant to see how we can help people to transform not only ourselves but our teams against this whole thing of burnout and fatigue, and how we can introduce right tips and tools and measures to really help us and help our employees manage a balanced lifestyle. And I think we've heard that quite a few times today. So thank you so much for the questions that came in. I think on the back of your just last comment, Nicole, one of the questions that came in was, as a leader, how do you set boundaries for your teams, as well as since some meetings invites are external? So yeah, I think it's this whole internal, external thing, and how do we manage our meetings well, our meetings time? And I don't know who wants to quickly chat to that.
So I'll go first. I think one of our audience members actually did mention it. I saw it in the chat, and it's something that we try to practice, which is, if you set an hour meeting, make sure that you finish that meeting within 45 minutes. So that it allows you 15 minutes to take a comfort break, stretch, grab a cup of coffee, or maybe a glass of hot water and lemon rather. But, you know, breathe in and out, and so that you feel relaxed, composed, and you actually have the opportunity to get ready for the next meeting. Sometimes we're going back to back in meetings. We haven't opened the document. We're not even ready to facilitate the next one. So that's one way in which you can, you know, run meetings more effectively. I think be intentional about having separate connect sessions with your teams and your peers, where you can just connect, collaborate, shoot the breeze, and really bond and get to know each other. But then when you're running, you know, specific work meetings around deliverables, projects, clients, be very specific about, you know, the outcomes of the meeting, as opposed to you know, belaboring a point, and you know, get more into action mode, as opposed to, you know, a preaching, you know, kind of session. So that's my input.
I love that. And Jane or Ali, do you want to contribute?
Yeah, I think Mariana, just this, I was going to mention this as well, in terms of just the development and deployment of ways of working, and, you know, whether it's through training and tools for specific business units or departments that do have these high levels of collaboration, stress and negative mood, is just, again, for leaders to communicate that very clearly, to have clear ways of working, interventions that begin with the leaders, you know, setting the tone, starting the dialogue, communicating that, taking the employees on the journey, and just be very clear and intentional with setting these things up front. Being deliberate, being intentional, I think, can really just help with this collaborative overload, whether it's an internal, external. It's just managing those dynamics very clearly up front. And I think everyone, all of us, whether we're a client or an employee, understand this dilemma that we are in. So if we're all in this together collaboratively, how can we help each other is where we need to focus the attention.
Amazing. And I love it. And I think the one theme that keeps on popping up is this whole thing, lead by example. So know how to lead yourself, and then know how to lead your team in setting that example to the team. I see we also got some questions around any specific resources, or maybe a specific place where you guys would go to find just examples or research or tips and tools and tricks of the trade. Anything that you could specifically share. I think in the chat there was also someone who shared some resources, and thank you so much for that. They were also like a great just a summary of what we've discussed today. So please go back to the chat also if you want to have a quick look. But maybe as a last question, because I know we are running on time, but any specific resource or place that you would point people to if they want to really take this serious and get into it, apply it?
I think if I can come in here quickly, Mariana, I think many of our audience will know Calm, the meditation app. I think, meditation, and I know Nicole and I were having this conversation the other day, how it's really improved just your mindfulness practice, being able to let it go, tracking your mood, practicing gratitude, prioritizing sleep, which we've also heard all about from Alison today. I think just, it is just a nice resource to have, which many people I'm sure are aware of. Thank you.
Just from my side, I think that if organizations are looking for a place to start, just ask your people and they will tell you. You don't have to figure this out yourself. It doesn't have to be another project and another role to take on. Go around having a casual chat to your team members, to your peers, and they will tell you what their needs are, what they're looking for. That's the best way to identify what people are looking for, how to best remove some of the obstacles that prevent them from working in flow and being effective and creative. So I would definitely recommend starting there.
Yeah. It's always good to go back to the source, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, I was also going to jump in there and just support you there, and just that survey and sending out that message of asking, how are you doing, is already allowing them a space to be vulnerable and to say, if it's just anonymous and they're able to say, this is really how we are doing, just like we've done in the poll survey on here, seeing that out of that mental wellness has come out tops. Well, that tells us something then what's going on in the workplace as well, that needs to be a priority then, doesn't it?
Amazing. I absolutely love this discussion, and I wish we can continue forever and ever. But unfortunately, we need to be conscious of time, as we are. We need to follow what we say. So, Nicole, I'm going to hand back to you for a close up. Maybe just before I do that, just something exciting I want to share with each and every one of you. And again, thank you for participating during this session. But we will be launching a podcast series soon. So please look out for more communication via our social media platforms. And I know there were also questions around recording. It was live streamed to Facebook. So if you want to have it immediately, go to any of our Facebook pages and you'll find it there. And then the recording will be later, it will be available later on. Nicole, I'm going to hand over to you to close us out.
Thank you, Mariana. So I think, it's been a brilliant session today. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Ali, for your insights. I think, what I took out of this is that from a personal perspective, it's really important that you stop, pause, reflect, and just catch yourself in terms of where you at with regards to your addiction to technology and digital platforms, the burnout and fatigue. So that you can self-correct, you can implement some self-care, techniques and practices, and more importantly, is to be very intentional about it. And it's creating micro steps, small habits that you can practice every day. We think breathing is overrated, and it's something that we do without even thinking about it. But equally so, we can slip into, a practice of just very shallow breathing because we're stressed and panicked as we move from one meeting to the next and one email to the next. So I think being very deliberate about how we implement self-care practices, how we set boundaries, how we use technology and implement healthy balance between, the good that we can get out of the digital space and technology versus the distraction, the overload and the anxiety that can come with it. And I think from a company perspective, it's really about starting with a human approach. Think about what others are going through. Put yourself in their shoes. Practice some empathy. Do a quick pulse survey and engage in people and ask them what it is that they're looking for. If you can start shifting the culture to wanting to know and caring about what employees are experiencing, it's much easier then to find the solutions. And I think it is being deliberate and checking in. And connecting with people, and over time it'll be something that becomes part of your nature. Create flexibility, manage outcomes, not output. It doesn't matter if somebody works 4-hour day or a 10-hour day, as long as you're driving the results. I think that's what's important. I'd just like to check in with Ali and Jenny. Any last thoughts from your side?
Yeah, I think a session like this can be quite overwhelming because you start beating yourself and saying, oh, I'm not getting that right and I'm not getting this right. But I think the key is choose one thing. Choose one thing that for sure needs to change and start working on it and take it one step at a time. but the key is to just take that step. So I think that's, yeah.
Thank you, Ali.
My advice.
I'm going to just echo what you said there, 100%. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Nicole, Ali, and Jen, thank you so much. I think this was a brilliant session. And again, thank you for all the hard work that you put into this wellness transformation journey. To the audience, thank you so much for attending. We hope really that this is just the beginning of us working and doing life together as we take hands in becoming partners in wellness transformation. And let's be intentional about our wellness. And thank you for all your comments in the chat box. We really, truly appreciate it. We hope to see you all soon. Yeah, have a good day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.